Exactly what are subjects? A subject is an object that is both an observable and an observer. Like an observable, a subject has a subscribe method. And like an observer, a subject also has the next, complete, and error methods. Because it's both an observable and an observer, a subject is capable of emitting values before it's subscribed to. There are 4 different types of subjects: a regular subject, behavior subject, replay subject, and async subject. These 4 types of subjects differ in the way that they interact with their subscribers. We'll take a look at coding with subjects in the next lecture. I set up this small demo to show you in action how each type of subject differs from the others. In the main portion of the screen, I have 4 cards, each containing information about each type of subject. At the top of each card is the name of the subject, as well as how that subject is instantiated in code. The bottom portion of each card contains an area which will show us the values that the early subscriber and late subscriber to the subject receives. The early subscribers will subscribe to the subject before the subject begins emitting values, and the late subscriber will subscribe after the subject has begun emitting values. At the bottom of each subscriber area, we see a label, and this label will tell us if the subscriber has not yet subscribed, is currently subscribed, or is unsubscribed to its subject. On the left side of the screen, we have a text box labeled emit value. I'll use this text box to emit individual characters to all of the subjects. Below that text box, we have an area labeled emitted values. And in this area, we'll keep track of all of the values that have been emitted. Below that, we have 6 buttons which will allow me to subscribe to the subjects, unsubscribe the subscribers, as well as complete and error the subjects. I'm going to start the demonstration by clicking on the Subscribe Early Subscribers button. Remember, the early subscribers subscribe before any emissions, and the late subscribers subscribe after the emissions begin. So I'll click on the Subscribe Early Subscribers button, and notice each of the labels below the early subscribers for each of the subjects, it's showing us that they are all indeed subscribed, but notice the behavior subject, its early subscriber has received a value, where none of the other early subscribers to the other subjects have received a value. And this shows us one of the characteristics of the behavior subject. An early subscriber will receive a value upon subscribing, and that value is the value that's passed as a parameter in the constructor of the behavior subject class. Notice the constructor of the behavior subject is passed a string init, and that is the string that the early subscriber has received. Now I'm going to begin emitting values from the emit value text box. I'll first emit the letter A. Now we see that the early subscribers to the regular subject, behavior subject, and replay subject, they all receive that emitted value. And as I continue to emit values, each of the early subscribers to those subjects receive those values. Now I'll click the Subscribe Late Subscribers button, and notice that each of the late subscribers, their labels have all turned to subscribed, so they're all subscribed to their subjects. But notice what's occurred with the behavior subject and the replay subject. The behavior subject, its late subscriber has received that last emitted value. while the replay subject, its late subscriber has received the last 3 emitted values. That's the special characteristic of the replay subject. We can specify by passing in a number parameter into its constructor. We can specify how many previously emitted values the late subscriber to the replay subject will receive. In this case, it's set at 3. So the late subscriber of the replay subject has received all 3 emitted values. Also notice that the regular subject, its late subscriber, has not received a value. We see all of the characteristics of the regular subject. Subscribers to a regular subject will only receive values that are emitted after they have subscribed. So now if we emit the letter D, the regular subject, its late subscriber, will receive the letter D. And that's because the letter D was emitted after the late subscriber subscribed. Notice the async subject. Neither of the async subject's subscribers has yet to receive a value. And that's because of the special characteristic of the async subject. So what I'll do now is I will click the Complete All Subjects button. And notice, upon completing the async subject, and in fact, we've completed all of the subjects, upon completing the async subject, its subscribers receive the last emitted value. And that's the behavior of the async subject. Its subscribers will only receive its last emitted value upon completion. Now that we've completed all of the subjects, I'm going to emit the letter E. Notice none of the subscribers to any of the subjects receives that letter E. And that's because of the observable contract. The observable contract states that when an observable completes, it can no longer emit values. So none of the subscribers receive the value that was emitted after each of the subjects completed. If you're not familiar with the observable contract, we discussed the observable contract in the observables primer. So you can refer to the observables primer to find out more about the observable contract. I've reloaded the page and then clicked the Subscribe Early Subscriber button. So all of the early subscribers are subscribed, and I then emitted the values A, B, C, and D. Now I'd like to show you what happens when each of the subjects airs. So I'll click the Air All Subjects button, and notice the label now tells us that each of the subjects is aired. Now I'll click the Subscribe Late Subscribers button. And notice what's happened with the replay subject. Even after the replay subject has aired, it still replayed those last 3 values, even after airing. And that's not true of any of the other subjects. Not even the behavior subject will emit the last value to its late subscriber after it's aired. Only the replay subject does that. So now we've seen basically all of the special characteristics of the replay subject. For its late subscribers, it will emit a specified number of previously emitted values upon the late subscription, even after it's completed or aired. There's also something else we found out about the async subject. The async subject will not emit the last value to its subscribers if it's aired. It only emits that last value once it has completed. And just as I did when we completed each of the subjects, I'll now emit the letter E, and we see that none of the subjects emits the letter E, and that's also because of the observable contract. Each of the subjects has aired, so they no longer emit values. And again, if you want to learn more about the observable contract, we discussed it in the observables primer. For this last part of the demo, I wanted to show you how unsubscribing fits into all of this. I've restarted the page and I've subscribed all of the subscribers and emitted some values. Now what I want to do is click the unsubscribe early subscribers button. And as you can see, that's unsubscribed only the early subscribers. The late subscribers are still subscribed. Now I will emit a value, the letter E. As expected, the early subscribers do not receive that emitted value. That's because they've all unsubscribed. And the late subscribers have received the emitted value. But what does that say for the async subject? Now I will click the Complete All Subjects button, and we see what occurs. With the async subject, once a subscriber has unsubscribed, if it unsubscribes before the completion happens, the unsubscribed subscriber, of course, will not receive the last emitted value. There's one last thing I wanted to show you regarding unsubscribing to subjects. I've restarted the page and I've subscribed all of the subscribers and I've emitted some values. Now, if I click on the Unsubscribe All Subscribers button, notice each subscriber to each of the subjects has unsubscribed. And if we emit a value, the letter E, none of the subscribers will receive that letter E. But also notice that we don't see the letter E in the emitted values area. In actuality, each of these subjects has indeed emitted the value E. There's really no way for the subject to visually show that it's still emitting values because it has no subscriber. But indeed, it is still emitting values. And if I emit the letter F, that letter F is indeed being emitted by each of the subjects. It's a little difficult to see in this demo what's going on here, but I do have a stack blitz running to show you this. I've created a replay subject to replay its last 3 emitted values on line 3. On lines 5 and 8, I've created 2 subscribers, observer A, observer B. And then on lines 12 and 13, I've emitted some numbers. At the first second after all of this begins, I've unsubscribed observer A. And at the second, I've emitted another value. At the third second, observer B is unsubscribed. And then at the fourth second, I emit 5 more values. On line 37, after the 5th second, I've created observer C, and observer C is subscribing to the subject. Now, notice what's happening in the console log. So we see that observer A and observer B both receive value 1 and value 2. Observer B receives value 3. Observer A doesn't receive it because remember, at the first second, observer A has unsubscribed. So it doesn't receive that value. But notice, we did indeed emit 4, 5, the numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on that 4th second. We emitted those values. And at the 5th second, we created a new subscriber. And as a replay subject should, upon that subscription, observer C receives the last 3 emitted values, which are 6, 7, and 8. All of this proves that subjects will emit values regardless of the presence of subscribers, which means that a subject will emit values before it has any subscribers, and a subject will emit values even after all of its subscribers have unsubscribed. And when new subscribers come along, it will treat those subscribers as late subscribers and in whatever manner that particular subject treats its late subscribers, it will treat that newly created subscriber. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. And to stay updated on the latest content from the RxJS workshop, please subscribe to the channel. Do you want to learn more about the RxJS library and many of its features? Please check out my course on the Udemy platform. It's called RxJS Subjects and Operators, What They Do and When to Use Them. You can find the course by clicking on this link on the channel page. Thanks again for tuning in to the RxJS workshop.